Okay.
Whakataka te hau ki te uru, whakataka te hau ki te tonga, kia mā kina ki uta, kia mā taratara ki tai, e he ake ana te atakura, he tio, he huka, he hauhu, te hei, mōre ora.
Kia ora. I am Beth Sarmiento, your new ACE recruitment consultant, and we would like to welcome you for today's webinar hosted by Auckland Regional Hospitals. So before we proceed with our webinar proper, I would like to reiterate that we will be following 3 parts of the webinar. So the first part will be the employer's presentation, where they will be discussing the recruitment processes, that involves reviewing application, ranking and selection, training opportunities, whether they conduct interviews on site or not, rostering and allocations, and other expectations. For the second part, the RMO representatives will be discussing their experiences working as PGY1s. They'll be discussing orientation activities and events in the hospitals, onboarding, and other employer paperwork before you start, support and pastoral care. And for the third part, we will be having our Q&A live session later. But for those who would like to put in their questions, text-based questions, they can use the Q&A function in Zoom. Or if they would like to raise questions live, please bear in mind that this is recorded. So we encourage everyone that when you ask your questions, keep it clear and concise. So that would be all for now. I'll be turning back to Ursula the floor to introduce the panelists.
Excellent, thank you. Hello everyone and welcome to joining us today. Bear with me and my technical skills for today. Alrighty, so today's webinar, as Beth has mentioned, is the Auckland region, which covers Waitemata, Counties Manukau and the Te Tokatumai Auckland district. So joining us today, we have a really lucky panel. Unfortunately, we've had Shirley Chen, who's our recruitment allocation consultant, away today. So my name is Ursula Nimchik. I'm the regional recruitment allocation team leader and I work with Shirley. And we're joined today with a couple of representatives from each of the districts. And we have one who's due to join us. Would you mind introducing yourself, please? Maxine, happy for you to start.
Yeah, I can start. So kia ora everyone, I'm Maxine. I am a PGY2 house officer. So I spent my first year at Waitemata Hospital. So I'll be speaking mostly about that today. But yeah, coming on this year, obviously jumping around the others too.
And Jenny.
Hi guys, I don't know if you can hear me. I'm a PGY1 house officer currently working at Te Tokatumai Auckland City Hospital. I'm happy to talk about some of my experiences, but I'm still at work at the moment. So I will be hopping in and out on video.
Thank you, Maxine and Jenny. And we're due to also have Kate Emmett join us from Counties Manukau, who can do a quick introduction once she joins us. Alrighty, so I'm going to kick things off with a little bit of a video. Now you may see a doppelganger here, but let's go ahead and share that with you.
Hi, I'm Maxine. I chose to work in Auckland for many reasons. Firstly, I had great experiences as a student here and found the teaching was always of such good quality. I also loved that there were so many subspecialties to choose from and try out at a lower house officer level. Outside of the hospital, I could keep up my sport at a high level, which was really important to me. And I had a great support network up here too. In Auckland, there is a large range of subspecialties to choose from. Last year, I was lucky enough to do both urology and cardiology as a first year, which are both very valuable and fascinating runs. You were very well supported within the hospital and with other registrars and seniors either around or contactable at all times. There's also so much to do socially outside the hospital, which I think is really important to consider. Yeah, so it's busy. But a good busy. I think there's always lots going on, lots of patients to see and things to do and be exposed to. I feel like I've seen a lot of procedures, and whether that's been, in or out of theatre and interventional, the side of medicine as well. And as I was saying earlier, there's also lots of support from seniors as well. So it's not too often that you feel like there's not someone around you can call or an approach to ask any questions, which I found really helpful. Yeah.
Excellent. All right. So how the process works in the Auckland region. So we receive your applications through the ACE process, which you're all currently going through, where you to provide a cover letter. Now for this, it's only one cover letter for the Auckland region. So that covers all 3 districts, even if you're applying for one specific district. Your CV, which will be in the ACE template, including a personal statement and your academic achievements, prizes and awards, and references. So for references, we do look for 3 references at 3 different places, usually consecutive, so current, previous, and 1 run prior. How it works in the Auckland region, once we've received your ACE scoring, ACE applications, we do what we call an ACE scoring and a ranking day. So this is done by the Pre-Vocational Training Committee, and all candidates go through the committee and their applications, and the ranking process is undertaken through the Fit for Purpose practitioner model, which I'll go through shortly. Once the scoring has been completed through the PVTC, it is then returned to ACE, and then the algorithm goes through, and then RMOs get matched, and then an offer goes out to those who are successful. So selection and criteria for ranking. So what we have here in the Auckland region is the Fit for Purpose practitioner model. It's a 4-quadrant model which bases on 4 key areas: clinical performance, personal strengths, academic performance and achievement, and professional and team approach. So through your CV, your personal statement and cover letter, academic transcripts and referee reports, and the criteria is matched into each of those quadrants by one of the PVTC ranking members. So out of this, you are given a score out of -1 up until 3 with a score pointing of 12. The -1 is for no evidence of completion, so make sure that you complete your CV with all information. And the highest scoring is outstanding. So we do look at quite a few concepts in regard to that area. Allocations. So our process for allocations. We have a survey of run preferences that gets sent out to you post your offer acceptance if you've matched to the Auckland region. You have the ability to choose up to 10 preferences of a run allocation for the 2024 training year. The information, once gathered from you, is entered into what we call an algorithm matrix, which matches your highest 10 run block preferences and gives us a bit of a scoring of who it goes into which placement. For anyone who's not matched into any of their one preferences, they'll be contacted and a discussion around the attachments will happen with you, and we will try and match you to 4 different attachments. Allocation letters are sent out in October, so from October you'll know which allocation that you've been placed into. What I like about the Auckland region is there are quite a wide variety of allocation and runs that you could get. So depending on the district that you are matched to, we have a range of general medicine, subspecialties, general surgery, orthopedics, urology, and psychiatry. Some of the other districts in the region also have vascular, spinal rehab, orthopedics, sorry, I've mentioned that one, ASU, GSU at Te Tokotumai, and a couple of more subspecs at counties. Teaching and training. So in the region, we have a 1-week PGY1 orientation, which happens at the beginning of the training year. Training and management of the acutely deteriorating patient. ACLS is a refresher course, and you also do one in your first year. Weekly protected PGY1 teaching sessions, clinical educational research opportunities, communication, clinical, professional and procedural workshops. Excellent. I'm going to hand over to our panelist team. Maxine.
Yeah, no, I'm happy to start. So yeah, I guess with that question, what's it like working? We've all seen that lovely video, so gave a bit of a summary there. Yeah, working in Auckland, I think, especially when you're starting off, it's busy, but I think it's a busy job. But in Auckland, it's like I was saying, it's very supportive. So I felt like starting off as a house officer, obviously a lot of nerves, a lot of new stuff to learn. And I always felt like there were senior people, registrars, consultants around to support me. So I really enjoyed it from that perspective. And as I also alluded to in that video, particularly actually in the other 2 hospitals as well, but there's the chance to get exposed to a lot more subspecialties. And with that comes procedures and really interesting pathology as well. So yeah, I guess in summary, those are some things that potentially Auckland has over the other ones. Don't know what Jenny wants to add.
Hi. I would really agree with what Maxine just said in terms of the subspecialties in Auckland. I think especially working at Auckland City Hospital, like you get exposed to a lot of those things where you don't get anywhere else, and you actually get a lot of referrals from all over New Zealand for those things. So it's really exciting. And you also get like a lot of general medicine knowledge from the registrars. So you kind of get a very, very like well-rounded experience, I think, working at the Auckland District Health Boards. And in terms of the orientation, I think we were asked to talk about the orientation process as well. It's like Maxine said, it's really well supported. For your first long days, you get buddies for the first like 2-3 weeks, which is really useful because every time you're kind of stuck, you can call them. And literally there's no such thing as a dumb question. I've asked so many, like literally even just like asking what kind of button to press to get a certain thing, where you find certain forms, what numbers to call. And you make lots of silly mistakes, but it's all kind of part of the process. You feel really welcomed in that respect. And I think like you can hear lots of different things about different hospitals, but in my experience, I feel like a lot of the hospitals can be, they're all like, just depends on your team. And so far my teams have all been really, really lovely, which is good. And I think we were asked to talk about the paperwork as well in terms of transitioning from a TI to a house officer. It's daunting. I remember feeling kind of overwhelmed with how much paperwork there was that's involved, because you've got like your mini ACE, oh sorry, not your mini ACE, I'm on OPH, so I have like 5 of those to do. Anyway, in terms of your ACE application, there's lots of stuff and it feels overwhelming with all of the I guess you have to get your supervisors to write like reviews for you, and then you have to do your CV and your cover letter, and you feel a lot of pressure to kind of appeal to each of the district health boards and things like that. So it was initially quite like daunting in that way, but it's over very quickly, and then you suddenly find that once you settled into the job, it's very, I guess, relaxing after that. So the paperwork is really not that bad. You just have to kind of get through it, and it's and then step by step you get there, and then you suddenly got a job. So yeah, I don't know what else to add about the paperwork.
In regards to the paperwork, just from our perspective, when you were being onboarded, was there anything in specific that you think would be useful for the new TIs to know? If you or Maxine can remember that time.
Do you mean about the cover letters and the CVs and things, that side of things?
Yeah.
In terms of the paperwork, like cover letters, I remember we were asked to do a specific one for each of the hospitals that you're preferencing. And then you have to do your CV, and it's a particular like medical CV. And for me personally, I hadn't needed a medical CV until then. And so it was a lot of like, it was a bit of stress trying to get the right thing. And I remember like stressing out about like even the size of the font, what kind of font, like, or even like the tiny little thing. So I think that's it's really not that, you don't have to stress about it too much. It is overwhelming, but it's really like, it'll be okay. I think that's the most in terms of the paperwork. And then you have to kind of ask your supervisors about doing your, is it EPORT? Not EPORT, the references for your jobs. I think that's all the paperwork that you have to do. And then after you get a job, so after you go through the whole selection process, and then everyone gets allocated a different hospital, then you have to start doing, first you say yes to sign the contract, decide on your union, and decide on your you have to go for a medical indemnity insurance and those kinds of things. But there's actually a really good document with a checklist. I think you guys provide that. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct. Yes.
That's really useful.
Yeah, good. We have an automated process that will run you through if you're successful for the region, and once you go through, there's like tick boxes that need to get done.
I'll just add, the only thing I'll add with the process is, so it was a bit longer I did it, so I was trying to break my brain. But when I did it, I know the University of Auckland provided a service where you could send your CV and cover letters in and get feedback. I'm sure Otago would have something similar, but I remember using that and it was really useful. So it could be worthwhile if you're having any issues or you don't have someone else to show it to, could be worthwhile too.
Oh, sorry, I'm just having a bit of a chat with our other panelist who's just struggling to get in. So I wonder, Beth, do we have any questions so far, or? Are you on mute?
Someone just asked about let me see it. Do you get to choose which of the 3 hospitals you can work in, given there is just the one application to the whole region? Why is North Shore not one of the hospitals under the Auckland region? There's North Shore and Waitakere Hospital, which is out in West Auckland, and that's part of the same DHB, even though DHBs are technically outdated, which is why you can't choose one hospital. But after being there as a student, you honestly, Waitakere is great. Just do it. just apply to that region. They're both fine. I remember as a student getting real nitpicky about exactly which hospital, because you're told to preference it. But like I said, every hospital has its own perks. like for me, being in the city is quite nice because if you've got dinner plans, you can literally just chill like at the lounge and then go to wherever you need to. And it's quite like, it's quite central. So it's nice where no matter like where you are. But on the downside, there's like terrible parking, very expensive parking, like kind of can be hard to get out if it's trafficy, particularly like down in Newmarket and stuff. So it's just every hospital's kind of got their own little things. But no, I feel like every one of my friends that have gotten to the different hospitals are all quite happy with where they've gone. No one's got any like big regrets and things like that. So there's no need to get too stressed out about it.
Excellent. Thanks, Jenny. And also to add to that, so when applying, you can choose your preferred district that you'd like to apply to. So North Shore does fall under Waitemata, which does cover Waitakere as well. So it's just that the cover letter is assessed by a group of panelists. We all look after the Auckland region, so it covers the 3. But if you do have a preference, absolutely, please choose your preference. Sorry, Beth, just before we move on to the next question, I thought we could introduce Kate, who has just joined us. And if Kate, we've just gone through a bit of a presentation in regards to the process and how it works in the region, and Maxine and Jenny have just given an update of what they like about the region or what their day-to-day life is. If you wanted to give us a bit of an overview of what your day's like.
Sure, kia ora, I'm Kate. I am PGY1, trained in Otago, now I'm in Middlemore. My day, I don't know, I guess you guys are all TIs, it's pretty much the same as being a TI, but with a bit of extra responsibility. I'm on GERES at the moment, which is pretty lax, but I've come off Gen Med, which was like balls to the wall hectic. So just pretty much just like rounds, jobs, and then long day, if you're on a long day. And I've just come off nights too, so that was also pretty wild, but I love Middlemore. It's a great place to be. It was like baptism by fire, but was exactly what I was wanting and expecting. Yeah. Sorry, I don't know what the rest of you guys said.
That's good, thanks. Cool.
Okay, shall we go with the question and answer? Because I've got a lot of questions in here now.
Sounds good.
Okay, so there's a question. It says here, I was wondering how competitive it was for RMOs to match at Middlemore for PGY1 and how many out of Auckland doctors were chosen?
That is a really good question, and I think that's something that we'd need to refer back to last year's ACE matching. We don't, because it goes through the ACE match process, we don't have the oversight of how many get matched. But we do have around 400 applications that come through to the region, and we have 192 positions. So I can't break it down specifically, but that's what the information's like.
Another question is, if we can't get to Shirley, who can we contact to get more clarification on any queries?
Sure. So Shirley should just be away for this week. However, I'm happy to take queries myself. And it will be my first name dot my surname at nra.health.nz.
Okay. Another question, was there an opthal run as part of ACH runs? I didn't see it on the list, but I could have missed it.
Ophthalmology, unfortunately, is considered a PGY2 plus position. So once you've completed your first year, there is the opportunity to choose ophthalmology.
Okay. Can we confirm if it's one cover letter for all Auckland region hospitals? I think you have already answered this one.
Yeah,
You
I
have
can
mentioned.
confirm. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And how difficult it is to get accommodation?
May pass over to the reps.
Yeah, no, that's a good question, especially if you haven't been up here. Look, I actually think it's gotten a lot easier. I think from personal experience, I've been in and out of Auckland, but in Auckland for a good 6 or 7 years. I'm not from Auckland, I'm from Wellington, so don't have any family and I've always had to flat around and I've never had any issues, to be honest. I'd say the only difficult thing is that it is quite expensive. as it is. I think when you start working, obviously that's less of a stress as it is as a student. I remember being quite stressed about that as a student, but in terms of finding flats, I think there's become more available over the last few years, was my understanding. Don't know about if you two have had any different experience.
I feel like it kind of goes up and down with Auckland. I mean, like, there's a brief period with the floods where it was quite difficult to find a place. I mean, in saying that, I think it depends on your standards, right? Like, if you're, depends on how far you're willing to drive and like whether you'd prefer a park and things like that. So it kind of depends. But I think it wasn't like, because I've been moving around the different hospitals in Auckland the last few years, and with each move I'd actually move flats, and that hasn't been too hard. It's been manageable, like, and it feels a bit hard with the, I mean, like, yeah, with the flood it was kind of difficult, but then it's kind of gone down now, so it's not impossible. And most people, if you're flatting, most landlords quite like doctors, so that works in your favor.
So another question is, do you get to preference which hospital after you have been accepted through the ranking, etc.?
Sorry, just to get clarity on that question, do you mean accepted through the ranking in regards to once you've been matched to the region, or prior? If it's prior, so before the match process goes through, you will need to identify that first. If you're talking about post being matched, you'll be matched to the district that ACE has provided you for. And if you're wanting to go through a swap process there, that has to be dealt with separately. And if you're talking around, those are the two.
There's also a question here, where can we access the recording later? Sorry, might have gone to go soon. This will be recorded, and definitely we will be posting it to the YouTube account of ACE RMO. So soon, the soon we will post it. Another question is, I'm aware that the cover letter we write for all Auckland Regional Hospital will be sent to the other 2 hospitals, and that is acceptable to just write one cover letter to all 3. Do you recommend us to address each of the Auckland hospitals?
That's completely up to you. The cover letter is seen by the committee and we work as a group. So if you want to address all 3 or just one, that's completely up to you. There won't be any prioritization given on that.
Okay. Another question, what are the chances of international students getting a position at one of the Auckland hospitals in Q1?
Sure, so that is a really good question. So we will follow the ACE guidelines and we will prioritize on what the guidance is from ACE. So category 1 is prioritized. And then it will go category 2 and then 3. So it does happen that international students get a position. It just depends on if there are withdrawals or if there is those who are unable to start. And we do often go to the talent pool as well. So there's always opportunity.
Okay. Another question, requesting for an advice for international students hoping to work in the Auckland region. Any advice or tips?
Anything from any of the reps? From employer perspective, you are ranked accordingly. No specific tips that I can give there.
Okay.
I guess I could just, I'm not an international student, but one of my mates from the Q1 Gen Med Quarter was an international student here at Middlemore, so it like definitely is possible. But aside from that, I don't have anything else to add.
Okay. What category, A, B, C, D, etc. hours to Auckland PGY1s work on an average?
I can answer that. So yeah, they're all, every run category is a different category, sorry. So hopefully I get my hours right, but I think from like 50 to 55 is a D pay category, and then 50, and this is hours per week, 55 to 60 is a C, 60 to 65 is a B and 65 above is an A, and that's on average hours a week. So it's not like you're doing that amount of hours every week. I think on average, they probably tend to be a C. From my experiences last year anyway. They all range, so often you can get some surgical runs, and I know like cardiology Auckland is an A. I'd say and there's a few like I think geriatrics might be probably a D, I imagine, but there's a they're variable essentially, but in general you'll do you've got your 8 to 4, or surgery starts a bit earlier and finishes a bit earlier every day, and then you'll do at least one long day a week normally, which is until 10:30 at night, and then you'll have your weekends and so on and move into nights. But yeah, that's how the system works, and you get paid more if you're working a higher category.
Yeah. There's also a question here, are there PGY2 positions in anesthesia?
Unfortunately, there are no PGY2 positions in anesthesia, as I can see the reps saying the same. We do have some positions in ICU, but if you are interested in anesthesia pathway, you will need to apply for an SHO position, which is only available once you've completed your first 2 years.
Are there special considerations like wanting to be close to family or partner that should be mentioned in the cover letter? If so, will that actually be taken into consideration?
Sure, so there are definitely special considerations that are taken in place, and I do recommend adding that into your cover letter. However, we don't have influence over the match scoring from ACE. However, should you be matched to a different district, we may talk to the other district if there are exceptional circumstances for you to work in the Auckland region.
This question is something I can't really understand, but he's asking do you stay in the same hospital or district for PGY 1 and 2?
So for your first PGY 1 year, yes, you are assigned to the same district.
Okay.
And at PGY 2, that's when you start rotating to the different districts in the Auckland region.
Okay. Next question, if I couldn't secure a spot as PGY 1, is there any way to transfer from the other hospital to Auckland region as a PGY 2?
Absolutely. So we run a recruitment process every year, as well as have expression of interest advertising open through the year. Once you've completed your first year, you're more than welcome to apply for a PGY2 position.
Okay. May I know if there any priority for applicants who have family living in Auckland?
Again, that comes down to the ACE match process. So it will depend what your ranking is between the PVTC scoring and the ACE scoring.
Hi, can we do the same PGY1 job twice in the same year? For example, could we be in orthopedic PGY1 for 2 of the 4 quarters, or is it not possible?
So it's generally not recommended that you do 2 orthopedic rotations in your first year. We try and do a minimum of 2 surgical attachments and 2 medical attachments. Now, this is normally spread across general surgery, orthopedics, and if urology is available, or we do like general medicine, psychiatry, or something like that. What would you say, Kate, Jenny?
When you get a position, they send out like a list for Auckland City Hospital. It was like something like 50 something options of your run sequences, and you get to rank your top whatever. So for me, I got like gen surg. I picked gen surg, like older people, geriatrics, gen med, and psych. And so there's like lots of lists like that. In none of them, they don't repeat. But you can also like swap if you're really, really keen. But like Ursula said, it's probably better if you start off quite general. If you're like a ortho gunner, there's nothing stopping you from swapping with other people if you can find one.
Okay. For our RMOs, this is a question. Is it recommended that if you work in Auckland that you commute?
Do they mean specifically for Auckland City Hospital? Because like there's lots of people who Yeah, there's lots of people who still drive. On long days, there's a car park that opens the gates at like in the evening. So it's a fairly cheap park. So by cheap, I mean like $6 a day. And the most expensive it gets is like $23 a day. A lot of people park nearby. So some park in like Simmons Street, Newmarket, and then just walk. And so most people that I know actually still drive. And yeah, most people drive.
Okay.
North Shore, there's a car park, a staff car park, and it's $3 a day, so it's much easier and cheaper. So at North Shore, I've always just driven really easy. You just swipe in and out and load it up. Yeah.
Kate?
I think Middlemore wins. I pay $12.40 a week in car parking. And as long as you get there at a reasonable hour, I've never had any trouble getting a park, but I do get here pretty early. Very easy. Yeah.
Okay.
And
Any tips on what really makes an application stand out for an offer?
Sure. So what we are looking at is just to see what you've done in your training time before joining us in the region. So we look specifically if you have any awards, if you have specific leadership skills, and that could be from being a sports team captain, it could be that you've completed Duke of Edinburgh, those types of things we look out for. We look out for community, if you do anything with your community. So those are some of the things that do make a difference. But we do drill quite deep into your transcripts as well, and any information that you provide on your CV.
Another question about cover letter. If it's one cover letter for the whole Auckland region, but you want to apply for a specific location, would you recommend against mentioning that, as it would decrease your chances at other areas? Example, you want to apply to Waitemata, but if you mention in the cover letter, it will decrease your chances of getting a job at counties.
It won't decrease your chance of getting a job at one of the districts should you be successful. It's just that we rank it as a group, and it's the ACE matching that would do the scoring. We don't discredit you if you're wanting to work at one district over another.
Okay.
It's like a regional overview.
Yeah. Okay. Can I apply for just ACH and rank it as my number one without ranking the other Auckland hospitals? Or do I have to apply for the region and pick preferences for all?
You can just apply for Auckland, that's not a problem.
Could I please clarify, are we able to swap directly with other students after the match is completed?
ACE, you're welcome to provide further information, but no, you're not able to swap directly. There'll need to be an exceptional circumstance that would need to be discussed with the district.
Yeah. On the part of ACE, just wanting to reiterate that once you were offered, you are expected to be able to accept it. Otherwise, if you decline, there's no more chance of getting back to ACE as an applicant. So just bear in mind that thing. Okay, next. How much a PGY1 expected to earn annually in the Auckland region?
That's a really good question, and I can't give you one specific figure because this will be dependent on whether you are part of which union you're part of, or if you want to be part of a union at all. So there's RDA in stones, and there are salary matrix in each of the sectors that you can have a review of and have a look at the run description that is on the Auckland Doctors website, which would give you a bit of an idea of what the run category code would be. So I can't give you an exact figure on what that is exactly, but you're welcome to email me and I can give you a bit of a range.
Is there a radiology house officer position for PGY?
Unfortunately, no. There are no house officer positions in radiology.
To get put into the talent pool, can we contact the RMO unit with additional references?
So if you're placed into the talent pool, you're welcome to provide additional references. However, at that stage, if there are no positions available, unfortunately, we wouldn't be making any difference. But we do get contacted for those who are in the talent pool, who are wanting to get a position. So we do keep in touch with you. And should we need additional references, we'll let you know. But hold tight on those until we need, if we request further.
Do you do interviews before ACE closes? Do you want us to get in touch with you beforehand?
Cool, so good question. So in regards to interviews, we do a ranking and selection process here in the Auckland region. So unless there is something specific that we would like to discuss with you from your application, we don't usually do interviews with interns.
Does mentioning a hospital as your first preference in your cover letter disadvantage you other preferences?
No, it does not.
Regarding academic transcript consideration, is this our official University of Auckland transcript, or does it include grades from individual clinical placement? I would like to answer that. Actually, I usually get the transcript direct from the schools. So it includes everything in there, all the records of your grades. So I think that's the one that we are going to be using for your records as to your transcript of records. I'm actually just to inform as well the attendees, ACE is now starting to upload your transcript of records. So you might be seeing your application once you get into your application again that your transcript has been uploaded already. So yeah, hopefully to be able to finish it soon. Okay, next. Who do we contact if we are in the talent pool and want to contact the DHP, the district, I would say?
Sure, so if you are placed in the talent pool, Shirley Chen is your key contact. It's on the ACE website, yeah.
Yeah, yes. Are your 3 ACE references taken into scoring consideration? How important are they? Having Auckland references, high yield for the references?
Cool. So we do take references into consideration. We look at the position that you're in, so whatever run you're in. If you're doing your attachments in Auckland and you're doing your attachments, say in Southland, there are no differences. We're just looking at what your scores are and any comments that the references have made. So it's whether you're in a large district hospital or if you're in a smaller one, there shouldn't be a discrepancy there.
Okay, another question, some sort of like a similar question, but if you choose Waitemata, can you choose preference for Waitakere over Shore?
Sure. So Waitemata does cover both of the 2 hospitals. So when the run allocations go out, there's ability to preference one hospital over another, but there will be, we do try and spread that out. So you do get exposure at both hospitals.
For the academic transcript, do you also look at the grades for other degrees prior to medicine?
So your application is for medicine, so we will focus on that.
Are the 4th year or 5th year grades being counted towards the application?
We look at the whole transcript, so we do look from beginning to end.
What's being asked in the references? Is there a minimum amount of time we need to be in that supervisor for them to give us a reference?
Sure. So the references are asking you in regards to what your performance is like. So they rate you on how you are with colleagues, how you are with questions that you may be asking. So there is a range of information that is asked by a referee for them to complete. We do, ACE, is there a guideline in regards to the length of reference?
Okay, I'd like to add on that. The reference report form is actually focused on getting your clinical skills, assessing your clinical skills, your professional skills, and your behavioral skills. So generally, there are also some questions that would be asked to your supervisor, whether how have you been working in your specific placement during the entire placement. Yes. Next question. How much detail does the academic transcript go into? Does it show an overall grade for attachments or grades for each specific attachment assessment?
Sure, so you'll have access to your academic transcript, so you can see exactly what we would see. So we would see if it's a pass or a fail, or if you needed to repeat a year, or when it does grading. So at the beginning of the first couple of years, you've got the ability for us to see if you've got an A, C, A, B, C, D. So we see all that information.
And after being placed into talent pool, do we still need to apply for PGY1 job, or do I wait to be picked and informed later?
Oh, sorry, Maxine's just had to pop off. However, after being placed into the talent pool, so no, my understanding of you being in the talent pool, that is for employers to be able to see who's still looking for a PGY1 job. You will be contacted, and that's from any district as well, because it's a district, it's a national talent pool. It's not specific to a district.
Is there an advantage in having references from different hospitals, or should they all be from the same hospital I ranked first?
Sure, so your references, we normally like to see references from your current attachment, if you're in a current attachment, a previous, and a one run prior. So that's what we're looking for. There's no advantage or disadvantage depending if they're from different districts or not, different hospitals or not.
The ACE RMO website says this for cover letters for Auckland region. They say they prefer a different cover letter for each. When writing your cover letters to employers in the Auckland region, you have the option to either writing one generic cover letter for up to 3 employers, or writing a separate cover letter for each employer. I think that has been answered by Ursula earlier. That
yes. So yes, we're happy with one. If you want to write 3, that's up to you completely, but one cover letter is fine.
Yeah. So they have an option whether they would like to go for 3 letters or just 1. Still
yeah,
up
you're
to
not
them.
Disadvantaged.
Yeah. Are elective references scored lower than non-elective references, even if it's from a New Zealand hospital and a generic run such as general medicine and general surgery?
Sorry, I'm just trying to get my head around the question. So your references aren't scored any lower or have any differences, whether it's elective or non-elective. We're just looking for your where your clinical attachments are.
Okay. Would you look for at my first year biomed grades if I entered medicine through the graduate pathway?
I believe that's taken into consideration, but if you're concerned of what they were looking like, we do look at the overall performance. You wouldn't be discredited on what you were like at the beginning.
Does a reference from a professor valued more than a new SMO?
So with regards to who's completing it, as long as they've got vocational registration, we will accept that reference.
I think in addition to that, as long as that the referee meets the eligibility criteria to provide you a reference, that would be fine for the employers. Could we ask for more than 1 reference from the same specialty run? Meaning if they can submit 2 references from just 1 placement, I think.
Our preferences is that you have separate rotations.
Okay. Is it okay to have your references from the first 3 runs of TI trainee intern year?
Our preference is more recent than that, thank you.
If I were offered a job from one of the districts or the DHB after being placed in the talent pool, can I decline the offer and wait for my preferred hospital? In the ACE perspective, I would like to say that once you were offered, you have the option to accept it or decline, but in terms of ACE business rules, once you have declined, there is no more chance of coming back as an applicant for ACE or through ACE. Does it matter when the year you got your references is closer to the deadline weighted better?
So our preferences is that your references are from this year or your last attachment at the end of last year. It's not weighted any differently. It's just we would like the more recent references.
What are the times in getting a response from Shirley in regards to any queries?
Sure, so that can depend, as she's unfortunately been away this week. There has been a little bit of a delay, but usually we try and get a response out between 24 and 48 hours.
Could we get a reference from emergency medicine?
Again, if that's one of your clinical attachments, then yeah, absolutely.
Does it matter if two of the references are from one placement? For example, if I had worked for two GPs, 50-50 on a GP placement, because I have spent more time with these GPs, 6 weeks, rather than asking my current Gen Med placement because I'm only with the consultant for a week.
Sure. So as preference, we would like to have separate references. Although you've been with your current Gen Med placement for 1 week, there will be opportunity for you to provide either an earlier reference, or you could wait a little bit longer because the applications are still open for a wee while. You could ask your current referee for that information.
I agree with that. What exactly does vocational registration mean?
Excellent. So that's a really good question. So for vocational registration, that means that you have completed your first 2 years as a house officer. You've gone through your training as a registrar and you're now an SMO. So vocational is once you've completed your training.
So far, that's and the last one is, I only have 3 long rotations before the deadline, so they will not be resent. Will this be taken into account?
Sure. So if that's all you have available or what you have available, that will be fine.
Okay, so far that's the last question that we have. Is there anything else that you would like to share, or any last words for our applicants?
So from us, we just look forward to receiving your applications and reviewing to see the future trainees we'll have in the region. And don't hesitate to contact us if you do have questions, because there have been quite a few good questions here.
Our
Anything
RMOs?
okay, Jenny?
I'd say maybe even if you're from Dunedin, don't discount coming to Auckland. I was kind of really scared, but I mean, it was kind of valid scared because Middlemore is terrifying, but it's worth it. Yeah.
Auckland City has the best food out of all of the Auckland hospitals, so I would highly recommend.
Nice.
Okay, so if that would be all, I would like to thank our panelists for really taking time joining us for this webinar. I believe there are a lot of more questions maybe, but I would suggest that our attendees, if they have specific questions specific to their case or situation, they can just send an email to ACE RMO, and then we will try our very best to answer you in the most comprehensive manner that we can do. So for that, we would like to do the closing, and we would like to thank everyone for attending, and we would like to wish you everyone a good luck in your application for this intake. So maybe we can do the closing, Cara.
Sure. Una here ki te uru tapanui. Kia wātia, kia mama tina ko, te tinana te wairua I te ara tangata. Koi ai rongo, whakakerea ake ki runga, kia tina, huie taikia.
Thank you so much, Ursula. Thank you, Kate. Thank you, Jenny, and our one of the panelists as well, who just, I think she already left, which is Maxine.
Maxine.
Thank you so much.